Hey everybody, welcome back to Politech, the show where we break down the intersections of politics, power, and technology, and how all three shape our democracy. I'm Dale, I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about something that's been stirring up a lot of noise again, mail-in voting. You've probably heard Donald Trump say he wants to get rid of mail-in ballots, calling them dangerous, corrupt, and even unconstitutional. Very powerful words. But why? And what's behind the actual push that he's working on right now? And what's the difference really between mail-in and absentee voting? So let's go ahead and dive into this so we can get a better understanding of what mail-in voting is. Mail-in voting or vote by mail is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of going to a polling place, you get your ballot actually mailed to you. You fill it out at home, and you send it back by mail, or you drop it off in a secure and monitored ballot box. Same ballot, same verification, same counting process. There's no difference at all with this. Except you're doing it from your kitchen table instead of standing in a long line or a polling line. Some states automatically will send this out to their voters as long as you're registered voters. Others will let you request one if you prefer to vote by mail. This isn't really anything new. Oregon has been doing it for about 20 years or so. Washington, I think Colorado also for about the same length of time. It's efficient, it saves money, it boosts participation, and especially for people who can't really vote in person, this is a godsend for them, and it makes things a lot easier for them. Still allows them to participate as an American, to be able to vote for our elected officials. Election studies show and audits show and have found that there is not any widespread fraud in mail-in voting. Yeah, none. The system is secure and it's heavily verified throughout the whole process. Now, let's talk about absentee voting, right? So sometimes we get this a little confused, and if you listen to Trump, he hates mail-in voting, but he loves absentee voting and he'll support it. Well, what does this mean? Because it's almost the same thing, just with a different label. So absentee voting was designed for people who couldn't make it to the polls on election day. Maybe they were traveling, they're sick, they're in the military, they're working away from home. I know when I was working in Nevada, I wanted to vote in Hawaii, so I had asked for an absentee ballot and I was able to vote. You'd fill out an application. This is the process that would take place to request it. Give a reason that you need this absentee ballot and get the ballot actually mailed to you. You'd fill that ballot out, send it back, and your vote would be counted. You get to vote, right? You get to participate. That's it. Simple as that. Same process, different paperwork that would go along with that. So the big difference between absentee and mail-in voting is really just the rules that surround each process or each request. So mail-in voting says any registered voter can vote this way. No excuses needed. Absentee voting, different. You'll need a reason to be able to request an absentee ballot. Otherwise, they're identical. There's no difference between them. So why does Donald Trump want to end it? Like, what's his game on this thing? Back in August 2025, Trump announced that he planned to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots completely. He said the voting machines were dangerous, and I addressed that in my last podcast. And the only fair elections are paper ballots cast in person on election day, and only on election day during the set periods of time. Now that sounds simple, right? Almost old-fashioned, but it's also extremely misleading. Trump claims mail-in voting leads to massive voter fraud, but again, there's no real evidence of that at all. Nothing at all. State election officials, Republicans, Democrats alike, have said repeatedly that mail-in voting is secure. So what's really going on here? Like, what's the game? What's his end game with this thing? Here's the truth. This isn't about fraud, it's about control. It's about control, and it's also, as I'll talk a little bit later down the road, it's about planting a seed of doubt in everybody's head, counting on the outcomes of a particular election. So mail-in voting makes it easier for people, right, as we know, to vote, especially younger voters, working parents, the elderly, and people with disabilities. And those groups don't always lean Republican. In fact, if you look back at records in history, they primarily lean more towards Democrat. When Trump's attack on mail-in voting, he's not just undermining the trust of everything and making it up. He's discouraging people from using one of the most accessible ways to cast ballots. And by the way, if you do your research, America is not the only one that does mail-in ballots. There's other countries out there that have been doing it for quite some time. Get back on track here. It's a strategic move that fits the bigger pattern of what Trump is trying to do. When he wins, the system worked perfectly, right? He praises the system. Just like when he hated TikTok, when it didn't work for him, and then when it worked for him, he actually loved it and became the savior of it. When he loses, though, the system must be rigged. It's always rigged. We learned that from the 2020 elections in January 6th. It's not just about evidence. It's about shaping perception. And the perception drives the turnout. In 2020, after Trump spent months calling mail-in ballots corrupt, a lot of his own supporters stopped using them. Big numbers stopped using them. Even in states where Republicans had dominated absentee ballot voting for years, that dropped by 60, 70%, if not altogether stopped. So this isn't just a political messaging, it's a voter suppression by suggestion. And that seems to be what he's very good at. Now, here's the key legal points on this. It's very important to listen to this. The president doesn't control how elections are run. The Constitution gives that power to the state. So even if Trump wanted to sign an executive order banning mail-in voting, it wouldn't hold up. It wouldn't hold any water at all. Courts would strike it down immediately. But that doesn't mean that a threat isn't real. What he can do, and likely he will do, is pressure Republicans to control state legislature to restrict mail-in voting access. Shorter deadlines, stricter IDs, requirements, fewer drop boxes, fewer early voting days, which he's already working on. He only wants one voting day. And that's how you chip away at the participation without banning the actual vote. And that's where the real fight comes in, right? Or where it is. Not in D.C., but at the state capital and the state level. So let's make this simple. Once and for all, mail-in voting means anyone can vote by mail. Absentee voting means some people can if they have a particular reason to do that. So this is an important distinction between these two, because Trump supports absentee, but he's totally against mail-in voting. Both involve mail-in ballots, both require your signature and ID verification. Both are counted exactly the same way. The difference is the paperwork, not the security. It's extremely security, and between the two, the security doesn't change. It doesn't alter, it doesn't falter, any of those things at all. So when Trump says mail-in voting is corrupt, but absentee voting is fine, remember, he's describing the process with the different rules and with the mindset of control and blame. Control and blame, let's say that. This isn't really about ballots, it's about trust, and it's about erosion of it over time. If a political movement can convince enough people that an election can be trusted or untrusted unless their side wins, the democracy itself has crumbled, and we've seen that happen. That's why this matters. This is why it's so important, because when people lose faith in how they vote, they lose faith in why we vote at all, and they stop voting. And we've seen this take place in the past. Mail-in voting has made elections more accessible, more efficient, and more representative of real America, and allows people to vote who wouldn't be able to vote in the past. And dismantling that system doesn't protect democracy, it actually weakens it by extreme levels. So the next time you hear someone claim that mail-in voting is dangerous or corrupt, ask them for proof. And then ask them who benefits from that particular belief. Because if we start throwing out entire voting systems for political convenience, we are not protecting democracy. We are actually handing it over and giving up. So I'm Dale Gibler, and this is Politech. If this episode made you think, share it, talk about it, and then join me on Spotify, and also join me on YouTube and Substack. And remember, democracy only works if we all participate, whatever the cost may be. Thank you very much for listening. Appreciate you.